Years into my legal career, the wisdom of a seasoned lawyer from my summer internship still resonated. Back then, fresh-faced and yearning for big city lights, I absorbed his stark advice. A lawyer has three duties, he told me, first to himself, second to the court, and last, the client. Always make sure you come first, and the client comes last. The reason? Because clients will fuck you, he said. They'll throw you under the bus without thinking twice. He wasn't wrong. Clients, in their desperate pursuit of justice, could become a whirlwind of emotional demands and unrealistic expectations. He likened them to tightrope walkers, precariously balanced above consequences, ready to cast off anything, even their lawyer, to regain their footing. While his advice grated against my idealistic streak, I tucked it away. Downtown skyscrapers beckoned, and I dove headfirst into the urban legal circus. The years blurred into a whirlwind of cases, clients, and late nights. Then, one day, the tightrope walker analogy materialized with chilling accuracy. A client embroiled in a contentious lawsuit attempted to shift the blame, painting me as the architect of their misfortune. Betrayal stung, but the lawyer's words, once cynical, now felt like a life raft. Calmly, I navigated the choppy waters, upholding my ethical duties to the court and my own professional integrity. The truth surfaced, and the client's accusations dissipated like smoke. That brush with betrayal proved the lawyer's point, not with cynicism, but with a sober understanding of the human condition under pressure. His harsh lesson, once a bitter pill, had become a shield, protecting me from the unforeseen twists of the legal path. It wasn't about self-serving cynicism, but about recognizing the delicate balance of loyalty and self-preservation in a profession where emotions often trump reason. In the end, his advice wasn't a call to callous indifference, but a reminder to remain grounded, ethical, and fiercely protective of oneself, all while upholding the law and striving for justice. Nestled comfortably in the middle market, nestled just below the radar of industry giants, sat my client's company. A multifaceted entity, its tentacles dipped into diverse ventures, acquiring assets here and there. Though not big enough to grace the pages of Forbes, its real estate portfolio held surprising heft. Then, one fateful day, tragedy struck. One of their prized properties, a building humming with the whispers of daily work, succumbed to the unforgiving embrace of fire. Reduced to smoldering remains, it left a gaping hole not just in the cityscape, but in the company's balance sheet. Naturally, the call went out for Frank, a man seasoned by years of corporate battles, a salaryman etched with experience in every wrinkle. The task at hand, to navigate the treacherous waters of insurance claims, to salvage every penny from the ashes. Frank, nearing the big 6-0, strutted around like a rooster convinced he could crow sunlight. Insurance claim? Pa, I handle my own. I don't need your fancy lawyer fees clogging my pockets. Lawyers, in his eyes, were highwaymen robbing honest folks like him. Every penny saved from their clutches was a personal victory, a testament to his shrewdness. He nickel and dimed me relentlessly, each skirmish a petty battle in his war against perceived extravagance. Dealing with Frank was like wrestling a particularly prickly cactus, frustrating, tedious, and ultimately pointless. The insurer is going to fuck you, I told Frank. It was only by luck that I even knew about the fire and the loss because Frank had not asked for my help. He just let it slip one day, and since then, I'd kept on top of him, trying to get him to smarten up. I'd had to fight to get him to send me the proof of loss form to make sure he hadn't messed that up. Frank fucked up a lot, and I wondered sometimes how he had a job. But the proof of loss was okay, at least, so that was one less thing to worry about. You don't know that, he said. I could tell he just wanted to get me off the phone. I'm paid to know when insurers are trying to screw my clients, I said, and the insurer is going to screw you. They've been stringing you along for ages with requests and questions and paperwork, but they aren't going to pay you. Not unless you sue them. But Frank said he knew what he was doing, that it was all under control, and besides, he got along with the adjuster so great. The limitation period expires in 2 weeks, I said, and once that 2 weeks pass, it will be too late to sue. The moment that limitation period expires, they will stop taking your calls. You'll get a final email saying sorry, you're out of time, and that will be that. Don't leave this till the last minute. Let me sue right now, and you'll have the money in no time. Frank was like, sure, fine, whatever, don't bother me, I got this, blah, blah, blah. And he got off the phone as soon as he could. I sent him the usual email with clear warnings and recommendations, which he ignored. I sent the email again, and then again as the limitation period approached, and again a couple of days before the deadline. I'm going to be at trial, and you won't be able to reach me, my final email said, but you have to sue. You have other firms on your list, so pick one and sue. He didn't bother to reply, and I went off to do my trial. The trial lasted a couple of weeks, and no email from Frank. Then a month passed, and another month, still no email. I figured he must have sorted things out. Maybe Frank was right after all, I said to myself, and then my phone rang. It was Frank. Remember that fire insurance thing we spoke about? We'd only spoken about it like a dozen times. I figured he was calling up to gloat, so I cut to the chase. So they paid out. That's great, Frank. You were right. He asked me what I was talking about, and could he see a copy of the claim. What claim? I said. The claim against the insurer. You know, that claim. Does that mean the insurer didn't pay? I said. He hung up on me, and then a few minutes later, my computer dinged, and there was Frank's email talking about how we spoke, and he told me to sue, and he was worried when I hadn't sent him a copy of the claim, so he was following up to get a copy of the claim. I emailed him back. I take it that the insurer didn't pay you, just like I told you they wouldn't, and now that the limitation period is expired, they told you to jump in the lake, leaving you with a loss in the millions. Is that it? I made a mistake by not going over Frank's head when he wouldn't listen to me, but if I'd gone over Frank's head, I never would have received another file from him, so I didn't. But that was then, and this was now, so I CC'd Frank's boss and his boss's boss, plus I CC'd Bill, the client's in-house counsel. Bill acknowledged my email right away and called me later that day. Frank messed up. He said, we know that. He's an idiot. So what do we do? So his excuses didn't work. Nope. Bill explained that they'd summoned Frank to a boardroom, but his story didn't add up, given all the warnings I'd sent him. Besides, there would have been no reason for him to keep emailing the insurer if he told me to sue. Once the file goes to legal counsel, Frank's role was over. The company knew Frank was bullshitting them. So that's it, then. Bill said, we just lost a couple of $1,000,000. It's okay, I said, explaining that when I realized that Frank was going to fuck up, I issued a claim against the insurer. Because I'd made Frank send me the proof of loss a while earlier, I had enough information that I could sue to preserve the cause of action. Not a great claim and short on details, but good enough. You sued without instructions, Bill said. Lawyers aren't supposed to sue without instructions because if you do that, you're personally liable for whatever costs the other side incurs. It's a big deal to sue without instructions. Yup, I said, I sued without instructions. I pulled up a copy of the claim and emailed it to him as we spoke. It's a little rough, I said, but we can always amend. Thank God, Bill said. Can I leave it with you? Of course he could. The insurer was a sitting duck, and I knew I'd collect from them, no problem. A few days later, I got a call from another guy who worked for the client, a guy I didn't normally deal with. They had a situation and needed my help. I usually deal with Frank, I said. What's up? The afternoon sun hung low over the glass towers of the city, casting long shadows across the office floor. It was then that Frank was summoned to another meeting, the kind with a singular, stark agenda. He emerged moments later, a crease etched between his brows, a one-page document clutched in his hand. The gravity of the situation was palpable, a silent ripple spreading through the cubicles. His small, personal belongings, a family photo, a half-read paperback, a dinosaur paperweight, were quickly packed into a cardboard box, a stark punctuation mark on his desk. Moments later, security materialized, flanking him like bookends of inevitability. They walked him past a sea of wide eyes and hushed whispers, a procession through the very heart of his professional life. At the elevator doors, his colleagues offered muted goodbyes, their faces a tapestry of shock, sympathy, and a touch of morbid curiosity. Then the doors closed, swallowing him whole, and Frank became just another chapter in the office's ever-evolving narrative. For me, however, his dismissal wasn't merely a footnote. It was a seismic shift, a life changing event witnessed from the front row. He became an anecdote, a cautionary tale that I sometimes weave into late night conversations with young lawyers over frosty beers. Perhaps I tell it too often, a symptom of my own advancing years and the comfort found in familiar narratives. No, I wouldn't call it revenge, not remotely. There was a pang of pity for Frank, a man whose age had become a liability in the ruthless calculus of corporate success. But his departure also ushered in a new era. His replacement, a whirlwind of youthful energy and unbridled enthusiasm, treated me with respect and fairness, a welcome change from Frank's nickel and diming mentality. So, as the laughter dies down at the end of another recounting, I raise my glass, not in celebration of another fallen comrade, but in quiet acknowledgement of the unexpected turns life can take, and the blessings that often lie hidden within the shadows of loss.